Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Coffee Time with Byron. I am your host, Byron. This is episode number 86. God, I can't believe I'm close to 100, but I'm excited about that coming up soon.
Well, good for you.
Alongside, yes, alongside me is former NFL player Felix Wright, longtime Cleveland Brown, and amongst other teams. How are you tonight? Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and I always like talking football and Browns and where we're going and where we're headed.
And I gotta say, we are on live right now on YouTube and available next day on all podcasting apps. Which at the end of the episode, if you're more than gracious, I'll send you the link to that so you can view it. Do you want the episode when we are done?
Yes, absolutely. That'd be great.
Perfect. Well, let's hop right to it. So I see you went to you're out of Drake College. Wow, I never even heard of that. And you were drafted.
No, I wasn't drafted.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Okay. It took me a while, but I found it. You weren't drafted. So how'd that process go? Did you have to be a walk on? Who scouted you to sign you? What take us through that process on how
Well,
you were able to get
it,
to
it,
the
it was a
Cleveland
crazy it was a crazy story actually. I went to school. I grew up in Carthage, Missouri, small town, about 12,000 people.
Browns? Hmm.
Uh, through high school, really didn't get a whole lot of exposure. Um, and but got an opportunity and got a scholarship offer from Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. Ended up signing on up there and played there for 4 years. Had a wonderful time there. And actually, when I graduated, I didn't have any opportunities. I'd gotten a few letters from NFL teams, but no invites. And I got a letter from an agent that that didn't call me. And so I actually went back to Missouri where I grew up and
Hmm.
actually got a teaching job, and I taught school for a year, and I coached football, girls basketball, and track. And during my first football season, uh, we were out practicing one day, and I was kind of demonstrating to a couple of my defensive backs that I was working with on the defense, and it was quite crazy because I got out there and did the technique what they should be doing, and when we came in from that practice, the coaches just came up to me and says, "Felix, you should be playing somewhere." And I'm
Hmm.
like, well, I would love to be playing somewhere, but I didn't really get any opportunities, and don't know why, but it just the way it is. So what it did is it kind of, I had pretty much had kind of given up on uh, playing football at the professional level,
Hmm.
but when the coaches came to me and kind of told me that, it gave me some second thoughts. So that evening, I went home and I asked my mom. I says, "Mom, do you have my college school books? Where do you have them?" I said, "There's a letter there that I'm looking for that I
Hmm.
got from an agent." And I says, "I'm going to see if I can't get a hold of him and see if he can get me an opportunity." So she found a letter, and the next day I called up that agent, and his name was Elliot Lehman. And so I called him up, and he says, Elliot. I said, Elliot, this is Felix. And he says, I know who you are. You didn't call me. And I'm like, well, I could say the same to you that you didn't call me. And I says, I think most of the time that happens where if the agent was interested in the ball player that they call him up.
Hmm.
And so we kind of talked about that for a little while, and I kind of explained to him what I was doing, and I just said, hey, I'm teaching and coaching down here in Carthage, Missouri, but if you could find me an opportunity to where I can go try out somewhere, that would be great. And I says, I know that the opportunities are probably slim to none, but I thought I'd make the call and see what you could do for me. And he says, all right, I'll get right on it in the morning. And so he called me that next day and said, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And I'm like,
Hmm.
wow. And I said, well, what's the good news? And he says, well, I got you two tryouts. And I'm like, well,
There you go.
so what could possibly be bad? And he said, well, they're both on the same day.
Uh oh.
And he said, so you're going to have to make a decision on which one you want to go to. It was the Detroit Lions and the Houston Oilers. And
Ooh.
so, on the teacher's salary, which is not much, I had
Mm-hmm.
to decide which one I wanted to go to. And since I had to pay for the trip, Houston was the closest, so I decided to go to Houston. So I had about a month to get ready for the workout, and since the beginning of the school year, every workout I had my students athletes do, I worked out with them, so I stayed in pretty good shape. After I left Drake University.
Mm-hmm.
So worked out, worked out on specific things on what I thought that I needed to do to get ready for this, pretty much a combine that they had down there. And so we traveled down there. It was a Saturday Sunday gig, and I was scheduled to work out on Sunday. So my uncle took off work, and we drove down to Houston, Texas. Got in a hotel there, and we said, well, since we want to find out where this facility is, so we make sure we get there on time for Sunday. So we pulled over to the facility right there in Houston, um, and we pulled up. And there was a bunch of cars there, and we was like, wow, there's a bunch of cars here for this workout as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we went up there, and we went up to the fence, and we saw a ton of athletes out there working out, which was kind of discouraging for me because I'm like, well, if they have this many athletes here, uh, how am I going to get a true look?
Right.
And at that time, I had just looked at my uncle and I said, this is pretty much a waste of time. I said, why don't we just get out of here? Spend the night and just get on out of here because, I don't want to waste my time, don't want to waste their time. And my uncle looked at me and says, hey, I took off work. You're going to work out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I'll work out. So they ended up having about 150 people there on Saturday. And so we ended up going back to the hotel. We went and ate dinner, and I worked out and did my stretching that I all needed to do to get ready for Sunday. And Sunday morning came, we got up and rode over to the facility and checked in, and there's another 150 athletes there.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through the drills and the weightlifting as best I can. And after about 45 minutes of working out, uh, he called the 150 that we had there, and the other 150 that was there on Saturday. They were there watching, called us all in. So there's about a total of like 300 ball players that had worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the head coach got up there and says, we really appreciate you athletes coming in and working out for us. And we've made some decisions on a few guys, and we're going to make the announcement. So out of you 300, we've chosen 3 people. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody was like, wow, that's all, And I was the second name called. So, which was kind of how it all began for me. So I, actually, went in afterwards, and they said, come back tomorrow, and we'll get you all signed up, and we'll see you in about 30 days to start. And that's kind of how my football career started for the
Wow.
Houston Oilers. Yeah. So I went back home and finished out the school year of teaching, and pretty much had to resign at the time because I really felt that that's where I was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And moved into Houston, and just worked out with the team for a couple months before we actually went into training camp. And got into training camp, and I really felt even to this day is that I felt that was the best training camp I've ever had in my career. I was in the best shape. I
Mm-hmm.
thought I was the best defensive back we had at the time. The defensive back coach there, who was a Hall of Famer named Kenny Houston
Mm-hmm.
for the Houston Oilers, had basically said the same thing: is that, man, you're the best corner that I have right now. But unfortunately, what happened is I ended up getting released after the 3rd preseason game.
Mm-hmm.
And the defensive back coach Kenny had nothing to do with it. He was really disappointed that he didn't have anything to do with it. It came down to a numbers game.
Right.
And so they released me. So when they released me, I headed back to Missouri, and the next day I received a call from the Hamilton Tiger Cats out of the Canadian
Yep.
Football League.
I was about to ask you how that came about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how
So
you got started. Yeah.
that's how I got started. And they called me up and says, "Hey, Felix, we saw you in training camp. You can come up and play for us right now." And I just says, "Well, I don't even know anything about Canada.
Right.
But if you teach me the game, I'll see if I can come up and help." And so they brought me in. They flew me into Toronto and drove me down to Hamilton. And I think I came in on a Wednesday and evening and came into practice on Thursday. And just had a little workout and to kind of explain the game to me because it's a little different. They have 3 downs versus 4 downs. The field is a little longer, bigger,
Right.
wider. And they says, "Well, you're here. You're going to be in our starting lineup coming Saturday." So we flew out to Edmonton, Alberta on that Friday. And then Saturday, I was in the starting lineup against the quarterback for the Edmonton Eskimos. His name was Warren Moon.
Oh, damn.
And, yeah.
I forgot he played in the CFL.
Yeah, he played the CFL. And so the first 8 passes that Warren threw was at the new guy, me. And I was kind of trying to hold my own on there. And on the 8th time he came at my way, I intercepted it and took it back 80 yards. And so I've had great success against Warren Moon. He kind of made my debut awesome, and the rest was history.
Yeah.
So I finished out the season there. They signed me to a 2-year deal, and played the 83-84 season there. Played well. My contract ran out, and then I had some interest from NFL teams, and that's how I became.
You got started. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were a 2-time All-Star, which helped propel your career into the NFL. Both years you were there, 83 and 84.
Yes.
So tell us, it's a 2-part question. Tell us about that. Two-part is, the first part is, besides Warren Moon, who were the other NFL guys that you remember that you played on that team with and against in those other teams? And how close were you guys in your years that you were in the CFL to winning a championship?
Well, yes. We were in the playoffs every year that I was there. 84, my last season with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, we were in the Grey Cup against Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So I only got a chance to play with Warren my first season there in 82, because in 83 is when he came back to the Houston Oilers.
In the NFL.
In the NFL, and played with them. But we had some great quarterbacks, and we had some great ball players up in Canada, because that was kind of the other league that you could play in if you didn't if they didn't feel that you were good enough to play in the league. You had to go somewhere and play and try to make some money.
Yeah.
Off of our team there in Hamilton, Dieter Brock was our quarterback, and he ended up going to the LA Rams and became a starter there and played well. And then we had a wide receiver that actually is a really good friend of mine. His name is Ron Johnson, and he ended up signing on with the Philadelphia Eagles and became a starter there. So 3 guys from those teams, we went on to play in the NFL and become starters and be able to hold our own while we were there. So my goal, obviously, growing up is, everybody wants to, is football when they want to play in the NFL. Right. I just kind of went about it the long way, and not the way that I would have chosen to go, but
right.
Hey, it all worked out. And, when I go out and speak with student athletes and talk to them and said, hey, sometimes it may not happen the way you want it to, but you got to stick with it. And if you stick with it, things might work your way. So nowadays, you have different leagues. You got the USFL,
right.
You got the Canadian Football League, you got even arena football.
So, they still have that? I thought they canceled.
Well, that went down, but I think they're getting ready to bring that back as well.
Really?
So there's many more leagues. That. Yeah, so there's many more leagues that you have an opportunity to kind of stay active. And if you play well enough, you might get that opportunity to step back into the NFL, like a Kurt Warner did for, he played in the league.
Speaking of, since you brought that up, Did you see that movie? I have yet
I
to
did
see
not.
that movie.
I didn't see it yet. Yeah, but
Good.
I know it's good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Like you said, after you had your cup of coffee there, which got you your start in the NFL, you sign as a free agent April 13th, 85 with the Browns, and you get your first opportunity smell of the NFL playing special teams.
Yes.
Now, I'm guessing that's where all rookies kind of go to, unless you're one of these top of the line rookies that get drafted. Is that where
Yeah.
most rookies start? Is special teams?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think when everybody first comes in the league, they got to special teams. Your youngsters, they're the ones that have the most energy. Uh, but your starters normally, some of them play special teams, but usually your starters are your guys that don't. Like I know that when I became a starter, I wasn't on many of the special teams because you got to conserve your energy. So
Mhm.
usually the special teams are really set up for your backup players and a few starters here and there, but it very rarely, because if your starters played special teams, they wouldn't come off the field. So but yeah, my first couple of years, I kind of earned my stripes by, going out, on the kickoff return, punt return, field goal, extra point. You just do everything you need to do to stay active and stay on the field, and would just wait for your opportunity. I felt that I was just as good as most of the guys that were out there starting, but uh, you know, you know, some guys, get drafted. Then you got some guys come as a free agent. So, if you're drafted, they got a lot more money involved with you. And so the money plays a part of it. So if you're making a bunch of money and they have to pay you, then you're going to play. And that's kind of how the way it goes in the league. And so when I finally did get my opportunity to get in the lineup, I took full advantage of it. Marty Schottenheimer was really the key reason why I decided to come to Cleveland over Oakland, over San Diego, and over the Kansas City Chiefs, is because he was the one that said, "Hey, Felix, if you uh, are the best person at that position that I feel at the time, you will become my starter, regardless if you're a first round draft pick or a free agent." So I
Mhm.
always felt he was kind of straight up, and that he's going to play the best guy. And so, after year one, I had an opportunity to, get in the lineup and do what I do as far as getting interceptions and making plays, and finally worked my way into the lineup and stayed there for quite some time.
Yeah, now take us through that rookie year, because from what I'm seeing, you had one hell of a rookie season. What I'm seeing here, you had 3 intercepted passes. You thrived on the special teams, as we talked about. You had a block punt return that was recovered for a touchdown. You blocked another punt, and then you had another punt that went 30 yards for a touchdown on a
Yeah.
Browns victory against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes.
So to me, you had a good rookie year. How would you classify your rookie year?
I I think it was a good learning year for me. It was pretty awesome, and it truly is a step up. When you when you go from high school to college, it's a giant step as far as athleticism of your coworkers and your opponents, and then going to the NFL from the college or even from the CFL area is a big jump as well.
Mhm.
Um, in college and high school, um, sometimes there may be some weak links that you can kind of pick on and gain advantage. In the NFL, there's really, I mean, there's going to be weak links, but those weak links are very, very close.
Yeah,
Where it's not like you can go just pick on one guy all the time because he's going to get you eventually.
right.
So just had to adjust to the athleticism of most of the guys and and just be daring, just go all out and do what you need to do to accomplish. And uh, from a young age, this is what I wanted to do, is to be a professional athlete, and I dedicated my life to for the moment and being ready. And I think that was the reason why I got the opportunities and was successful at it, is because I stuck with it and didn't let anything get in my way to achieve it. And so when I had an opportunity to play, I know that I had to do it through my play and through practice. Marty Schottenheimer was a big practice guy. He says, you play as how you practice, and
Yeah. God bless
and
his soul,
so
by the way.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, my thing was that turnovers, interceptions,
Yeah.
and even as a backup player, I equaled some of our starters' numbers as far as interceptions, and finally, after getting into the lineup, was achieved one of my goals that I had is to lead the team as well as the league in interceptions, and I was able to do that in 1989, which was a tremendous uh, and fulfilling goal that this kind of made my career.
So take us through that Minnesota game. What made that so special from what I'm seeing? I mean, it was only like was that like one of your first touchdowns off a punt return, or
Yes,
what
yeah,
was that?
that was
Was that
awesome.
for a playoff game or what?
No, that was a regular season game. It was a regular season game, and me and Minifield and we came off the same corner, and we would always strategize throughout the week how we were going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, the week before that, I had came through and blocked a punt, and Minifield had picked it up and scored the week before, and then the following week we went to Minnesota, and he blocked a punt. I picked it up and scored. So it's just one of those deals to where it's something we had worked on, something that we had pride in, and it helped us win the game because it was a pretty tight game as I remember. But yeah,
So,
that was the first score that I had. That was pretty exciting.
which by the way, I'm also trying to get him on too. I've been trying to get a hold of him on Twitter. He's tough to get a hold of.
Yeah, he's tough. He's not. I don't think he's on there as much as he used to be.
No, he isn't. He isn't. I
Yeah,
think the last time he posted was a couple years ago. I think was the
was
last
it?
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not on it anymore.
right,
It's hard,
right.
but I would love to have him on too.
Yeah,
So
I'll
the
mention it to him. I'll send this out to him and tell him that you have an invite. Give him a
perfect.
call.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So the following week, I see then after that game, you get Player of the Week accolades. Did you
Hmm.
know about that? And how
Yeah.
special is that to get something like that? How
Oh,
I know it's not an actual real award, you get like a trophy or anything, but what is it like to be named as that, as a Player of the Week or Player of the Month? What does that mean for as a player? As a
well, I think it's not something you think about as a goal to get, but it just means that you were at the top of your game, and you were one of the top players in the league at that particular week or month, which is an awesome achievement. And it also it gives you leverage when you come to contract time as well. As far as money,
right,
obviously, you play the game, you want to get paid well for it, and so with gaining that recognition, it just gave me some leverage on when the next deal came up. Hey, so I'm a legitimate. It kind of and also legitimizes you for being at that level. So you know, uh, I look. When you look back, I wasn't given an opportunity out of college in year one, and look where I'm at now. So you other 31 teams out there, screwed up.
yeah, right, you're
you
right,
know,
you're right. Do you remember who you played against that got you that accolade? Because you, let me read you off some of what you did in this game. You intercepted one pass, returned it 68 yards to set up Cleveland's first score. Then you later ran 40 yards with another interception for a touchdown. Do you
yes.
remember? Do you remember that game?
Oh, absolutely. That was probably my best NFL game I ever played, and that was the game we came back off the strike. That was our first game off the strike that we had, and
Mm-hmm.
we were playing and our first game was on Monday night against the Los Angeles Rams.
Yep. Yep.
Yep,
The old
and
Rams. Yep.
yep,
When they
and
moved back.
Jim Everett was the quarterback, and the first interception, they were marching down the field. They were actually getting ready to go in and score. I picked it off at around the goal line, and raced up the sidelines I think Charles, I forget his name. He actually used to play for the Browns. He actually ended up making the tackle. And then the next one was right before halftime. They tried to throw a little slant pattern. We had been practicing all week, and I just just read it, believed it, made the break when I was supposed to, and just kind of ran down the sidelines and score. But yeah, that was the probably the best. Actually, and I wasn't in the lineup quite at that time. I was working my way in it, but after that game, uh, I was in the lineup for the rest of my career. So that was kind of the uh, turning point of my career with those two interceptions.
Now I know this is tough to debate. It really is because it goes by era, but I'm sure you've heard of this before. I got to ask you this because you played cornerback, so I got to ask you. Dion Sanders. A lot of people are saying he's the GOAT cornerback of all time. Would you agree with that? I know it's a tough debate, even for me, because I was born in the 90s when he played both sports.
Yeah.
And I watched his career. Yeah, he was one of the all-time greats. But that's of the 90s. I mean, you can't these people, you got to think it's different eras.
Different eras.
I mean,
different eras. I would say Dion was probably the most athletic.
You even had a chance to play against him, didn't you?
What's that?
Did you have a chance to play against him? I think he
Oh
started.
yeah. I played against him when he was with the Atlanta Falcons. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played. We played against him when we were when he was with the Atlanta Falcons with the Brown, as well when I was with the Vikings.
When he first started, yeah.
Yeah, when he first started, we saw him. He was a phenomenal athlete, very fast. He used to run punts, special teams when he first got in the league as well.
Yeah.
I would, if he, I would, I don't know if I'd give him the GOAT because in my era, I think we had 4 really good shutdown corners when we played. Obviously, the 2 guys I played with, and Frank Minifield and Hanford Dixon, they were shutdown corners. They were awesome. Mm-hmm. And at the top, and they were Pro Bowlers. And they made multiple Pro Bowls. And then we also had 2 other corners that were shutdown corners that played for the Oakland Raiders, Lester Haynes and Mike Haynes. They were awesome cornerbacks. So I would say, of those 4 guys and Dion, those were the top guys that at that position I think that ever played the game.
Yeah, like I said, it's tough because this is where I don't get. I'm sure you kind of agree with me on this. This is kind of like where people get me is like, I get you want to try and debate who the greatest players of all time are.
Yeah,
but it's different errors and different rules.
Much different era. It's kind of like the Michael Jordan, LeBron James deal.
Exactly.
It's like they were both great. They both dominated in their era. I mean, how do you know who I know that if I had to choose, I would choose Michael because Michael's he's 6-0. He never lost in the championship.
Same, because I grew up watching him. I grew up watching him because from his first retirement to when he played baseball, then he came back, his second retirement, then came back again and retired again. So I know
it was great. It was awesome. But I think LeBron's is really great too. But if you got to make a choice, I got to go with the 6-0 guy that's never lost.
Right.
LeBron's been there. LeBron's been there more times, but he's 4-6. So that's how I base it on. I think they both have the great ability, students of the game, but they're just 2 different players as well. But I think the player that's probably the closest to a Michael Jordan would be Kobe Bryant.
By far, he wanted to be Kobe. Literally, literally.
Yeah.
He looked more like him than LeBron does. His game.
Oh yeah,
for sure. So in '88, you ended the year with 3 multi-interception games, including a pair against your team's loss to the Houston Oilers in a wild card game. And then you won AFC Defensive Player of the Month that year. Take us through that year. And how bitter was it that you guys lost to Houston? Because you guys had a good team.
Yeah, we had a good team. Uh, I think that was the season where I think we had to play Houston to back weekends. We played them in Cleveland the last regular season game, and we
Yeah.
beat them. And then
Yep.
we came back and played them in a wild card game uh, in Cleveland again, and they beat us, which was disappointing. But those things happen. Uh, it's just one of those deals. Any team can beat any given, can beat any team any given time, uh,
Yeah.
and it's hard to beat a team. You know, if you beat a team, I think we beat them twice that year too during the regular
You did.
season. I
You
mean,
did.
if you look at this year, you look at the San Francisco 49ers beat the Rams both times this year, but they couldn't beat them in the
Yeah.
championship
Couldn't
game
beat
of
them in the
going to the Super
championship
Bowl.
game. Yeah.
So I think that was the situation that we ran into. They just finally figured this out and figured the loophole what they needed to do to get the job done. So it was a great season for us. I had great numbers. Our team, had won a lot of games, but when you go into the playoff seasons, it really depends on what team gels and comes together at the right moment. And those the Houston Oilers, and then the nemesis we had with the Denver Broncos. They beat us three times in AFC championships, and it was just although I think we had the best team in the AFC those 4 or 5 years that we played. It doesn't matter. You got to be hot at the right time, and I just think that we just peaked probably too early in the season. And if you look at the Green Bay Packers, they've been in the last four NFC championships.
And failed.
They've been the hottest teams, but they peaked too early.
Yeah.
You win 13 games, and then and you look at the Cincinnati Bengals were 10-7, but they peaked at the right time. They got to the bottom. They actually should have probably won this year's Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So
You're right. They should have.
so that's really what it's all about. I think it just depends if you get hot at the right time. It doesn't matter how many games you've won in the regular season. Uh, it becomes a single elimination, and if you have a bad week, it's you're going to be sitting down for the rest of the off season, and then get ready for the following year.
Now, Bernie Kosar was your quarterback, correct?
Yes.
How was he in the locker room? How could he handle the locker room?
Bernie was cool. I mean, you know what? We were a pretty mature team. So I mean, we had fun. We had a lot of fun together. We was a really a close knit team to where we did a lot of things together. When we'd we'd go out as with 10 to 15 guys at a time, and did a lot of things together at the facility. Didn't really have any major issues, with guys getting in trouble or anything like that. So it was. I think it was a pretty easy deal. Bert Kosar was one of our captains. Ozzie Newsome was one of our captains, who was kind of a laid back guy. Actually, he runs the Ravens now. And,
Yeah. Well, he's off that now. I think a couple years ago was his final year when he drafted.
Yeah, he's a VP now. So yeah. So, but they were excellent leaders, and we got a lot of things done. In fact, our leader on defense, if we had chosen, was probably Hanford Dixon and Clay Matthews that we had as leaders, and we just didn't really have a whole lot of issues with guys that needed to be talked to. So I think pretty much everybody were good leaders and good examples, and there's one distraction we didn't really have to worry about as far as in the locker room. We were pretty close knit.
The following year, you led the league with interceptions with 9, and on the November 5th road victory over the Tampa Bay Bucks, you returned a pass 27 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Besides that game, what do you remember about that year when you led the league in interceptions? Because that's got to be an honor in itself, leading the league in something. That's got to be an honor in itself.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was an awesome year for me because it just seemed like the ball was just falling in my hands. I had a lot of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those years to where I was able to help our team out by getting the ball back for our offense. We had a really potent offense. Our defense, we created a lot of turnovers because I think Hanford and Minifield had a few interceptions that year. Thang Gash was the other starting safety who actually, in that Tampa game had an interception for a touchdown as well. It had like 3 or 4 interceptions, and we were on defense that year was a turnover machine. So we
Yeah.
did a lot of we did a lot of good things and played well enough to get us into the AFC Championship again. Uh, but that was a dream come true season for me because was a goal that I had. I think every defensive back has a goal to lead their team in interceptions and turnovers, getting the ball back for your offense. Also, the lofty goal of maybe possibly leading the league in interceptions. Uh, I had that goal is to lead the league in interceptions, but to reach that goal, it's pretty tough.
It is.
Uh,
You're right.
and but every week
Especially
when
with the
we
QBs you handled in your time. You
yeah
you you had some wicked QBs
yeah
you went
absolutely.
up against.
So I know that when we had gotten halfway through the season and I was right up there at the top of the league, I said, man, I really got a chance to make this happen.
Do you
And
do
so
you
I said,
remember do you remember any of the interceptions you had off those that
oh
year?
yeah, I pretty much remember all of them. Yeah, remember all of them. I intercepted the big guys. I intercepted Dan Marino, John Elway. Um, I think I got one off of Joe Montana, Boomer Esiason. Obviously, I used to intercept every time we played Warren Moon. I used to
Like
get
I said,
one.
powerhouses.
Yeah, Warren Moon. So yeah, I used to get a lot of those old boys. In fact, I think I've intercepted everybody it was the NFC Central at that time. I got all those. The Steelers got a quarterback. They had a couple of different Steeler quarterbacks then.
Now I got to ask you a question. Since that year you did intercept them, do they ever come up to you nowadays? Now that you see them, do they
Yeah.
ever remember
I
you getting an interception off of them?
Well, I've worked for the league, so I go to all the Hall of Fame games, right? And a couple of those guys are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
When they see me, especially Warren Moon, when he sees me, he just shakes his head. He don't even want to talk to me. So it's pretty funny. We used to talk about it a lot, and he just goes the other way now when I come towards him. So
See, isn't that great that you have that relationship that you
oh
can joke
yeah,
around with them? Gotta
yeah,
love it.
it's pretty awesome. I love it. It's a good time.
Now, maybe not back in the day because you guys
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to win, but I mean, now that you guys are all retired and Hall of Famers,
yeah.
I
Yep,
mean,
retired and just hanging out now. Yeah, they can't be mad anymore.
yeah, exactly. So you spend after you leave Cleveland, what you go to Minnesota.
Yes.
Now, did you kind of get the sense that your career was sort of almost over? Because I see you ended your career in '93 with the Chiefs. So
Yeah.
when you spend the 2 years at Minnesota, what was that experience like? And did you know you were kind of on your end ropes
Yeah.
to being retired?
Yeah. I knew that. I maybe only had a couple of years left in me. I really wanted to stay in Cleveland, but management. David Modell and I had some issues, and I actually was his first negotiation when
Mhm.
because beforehand he didn't really do any negotiation with any contracts, and I was his first guy, and he was trying to set an example, and I wasn't going to allow that, and so I decided that maybe it's time for me to to leave and head on down the road, which I didn't really want to because that year they'd actually let Bud Carson go, and they'd hired we had an interim coach, and they were going to be bringing in some new coaches, and so I just said, well, maybe it's my time to leave. And when I couldn't come to an agreement, I had some other teams that were interested, and Minnesota became the ones that really showed the most interest. And the crazy thing is that when they did offer me the contract that I wanted, Cleveland matched it, but I was so disappointed and upset that somebody that I hadn't played for was willing to pay me, but the team I played for 6 seasons didn't want to. So
Right.
that really bothered me. And so
Right.
I just said, well, I'm going with Minnesota because they obviously trust what I do and what I've done in the past. And that's when Bill Belichick and Nick Saban and all those guys came in, and they actually called me and asked me to stick around and said, "Hey, we'll make it right." And I said, "Well," I said, "Yeah, but going through these negotiations was really tough, and I got some hard feelings, so I'm leaving." So I went on to
I don't
Minnesota.
blame you. I don't
Yeah,
blame you.
and it was a good move for me because it was good. It was a good change, and it was uh, it was good to I could go and check out and see what the other conferences do. So I went over to the NFC and played for the Vikings, and went right into the starting lineup with a veteran team, and really enjoyed my time there. Uh, totally different than how it was in Cleveland as far as the workouts and things,
Mhm.
prepared for games. So I saw, just different ways to get ready. And so those 2 years that I had I really enjoyed those 2 years because it was, I would say probably less intense uh, there. And, and then after I signed a 2 year deal there, and so pretty much after the 2 year deal, I knew that it was pretty much probably going to be over there because I was in my getting close to my mid 30s,
Yeah.
and I'm in my mid 30s, and I was getting paid pretty decent, and I just knew that it was going to be tough to get paid that amount again, and then and sign with another team because they actually the coach I went there was Burns, and then they let Burns go, and then we had Dennis, Dennis, what's his last name? I forget his last name. But anyway, he different, so I had a different head coach come in. So when you got a different head coach come in, they want their own players come in. So
Right. Right.
so then I set out the whole next year, the '93 season, and then Marty had called me, and that's kind of how I ended up with the Chiefs and played in the playoff game with them, which was pretty awesome.
And that was, I believe, Montana's last year. I
Yeah,
believe.
I played with Montana, Marcus
Yeah,
Allen.
wasn't that his final year? Because
Yeah,
I know he came back with the Chiefs
yeah,
to try and do
yeah,
the last hurrah, but you guys unfortunately couldn't win it. Couldn't
yeah.
win the championship.
We lost against Buffalo in Buffalo. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a crazy game. That was an awesome game. I thought we had a chance. But they actually knocked Joe out in the first quarter, and when they did that, we were pretty much done. So I played in 4 AFC Championship games and lost every one of them. So
Oof.
yeah, pretty crazy.
Brutal.
Pretty
Brutal.
crazy. I lost 3 to Denver and 1 to Buffalo. So I never got a chance to make it to the Super Bowl, but it was a good ride.
Now, obviously, your final year, like we just said, you played against the you another GOAT debate, which we're going to
Yeah,
save that for another day. Montana, you played with him for
I
that
played for
year.
it. Yeah,
What was he like in the locker room? Because you at first only got to play against him. What
yeah.
was he like in the locker room
Oh,
when you played for him?
Joe was Joe Cool. He was cool, laid back, and the ultimate veteran. Uh, just one about his work and practiced. Practiced hard, got himself ready for games. He was a great preparer, and he led by example. Wasn't a big talker, didn't talk a lot. Um, and Marcus Allen to play with him. We worked hard during the week to get and I think the reason why you look at guys like a Joe Montana and Marcus Allen, Bernie Kosar, and the teams we had in Cleveland. I think the reason why we were so good is when we were students of the game, and
Mhm.
we understood what it took to win as well. And you and talent is one thing, but you got to. But if you watch enough film and you study and do what you need to do, uh, you, you know how they're trying to attack you. You can counter it, and I think that's the reason why we had so much success because we were smart about it. Whereas guys that 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 don't pay attention to the details, although they may be great athletes, get taken advantage of.
Now, obviously, you spent the most time with Cleveland. I gotta ask you this. I've only seen it on TV and how crazy they are, but you know where I'm going with this. Tell us about the Dog Pound, the fan base. You played for them, so tell us what
Oh man.
is Dog Pound like?
Oh, the dog pound's awesome. It's great. When the first year when we became the Dogs was in '85, and I remember Hanford Dixon and Minifield just basically one day just says, listen, we got to be dogs when we go out there. We got to be relentless, and then they went out and said, well, let's create a poster. Let's get some dogs and go up on the court steps and put a poster up, and we're going to become a dog, and this is going to become our pound. And it just picked up, and the fans took it and ran with it. Started wearing dog chains, dog mask, and started barking, throwing dog biscuits out on the field. It was just something that they could do to relate with us, and something we could do to relate to them, and it just took over from there. So it was awesome. I think it's the most awesome place to play in the NFL. And now you got other, and since then you got other teams now trying to create their own identity. Like in Seattle, they got what is it, the 10th man? What is it, the 12th
12,
man?
yeah,
Yeah, the
12.
12th man. You got in Cincinnati, you got the Jungle.
Yep.
So you just got different names just to try and create their own identity. And before we came, you had the Cardiac Kids, and so that was their identity.
Yeah, that's true.
We're the dogs. So so now they still have the dog pound in Cleveland, but they still need to create their own identity. So we'll see what happens.
Now, unfortunately, Cleveland took a while away from the
Yeah.
league and didn't come back until the late 90s. You, as a former player who played for them, did that hurt you a bit that they took the franchise out of Cleveland because they moved to Baltimore with the Ravens, and then all of a sudden they ended up coming back to Cleveland? Were you disappointed when they first moved?
Oh, absolutely. I was sad for the city, for the people of Cleveland, that they were going to lose their football team. And actually, when it first left, we didn't know if we would ever get football back in Cleveland. Um, so it was definitely sad. I was retired at the time as well.
Yeah, you
So
were.
yeah, so it was
I
pretty
was still young.
yeah,
I was like 3 or 4.
right. So yeah, it was pretty bad there in Cleveland. As far as alumnus, when you come back, when I retired and came back, the Modell used to give us tickets to go to games. If you played for the Browns and you were in town, you could get tickets to go to the game. So I used to go to all the games, every game. So
Mhm.
it was pretty awesome. And so, um, when they left, we got invited. Our alumni, we get invited up to Pittsburgh and Buffalo, which we went up there and kind of watched the games there, just to kind of keep us involved. And I tell you what, when they announced that we were going to get an expansion team, we were going to get our history back. That was really cool. But they had to build a new stadium and get that together, and
Right.
this ended up working out real well. Now we just need to get back to the winning ways like we did back in the '80s, and see if we can recreate that. And we have the last couple of years, but we just need to be a bit
Yeah,
more
because
consistent.
because when you guys came back, you were a laughing stock of the franchise
Yes,
of the league.
right.
With how many
Right.
coaches and how many quarterbacks?
Too many, way too many.
Quite
Uh,
too many.
it's pretty crazy. So uh, hopefully we can keep this core that we got. Uh, it didn't go too good last season, but at least nobody got fired. So we'll see what happens this season. yeah, this is an important season for a lot of ball players and a lot of coaches.
Now,
So,
why do you think they wanted to move out of Cleveland originally? That was the Brown family, right?
well, Modell wanted a new stadium, and the city of Cleveland had just built the Indians and the Cavaliers new arenas to play in. Uh,
Oh, yeah,
and
right,
and
right. That's
and
right.
and Mr. Modell thought that well, the Browns are the team here in Cleveland. I think we deserve one too, and it just didn't happen at that time. And so he just says, "Well, I'm out of here. You're not going to build me one. I'm out of here. I'll go to a city that will build me one."
So he thought the city basically gave up on
Yeah,
you guys,
yeah. He thought the city was dogging him, and
even though
so
that's not true. Even though
yeah,
that's not true.
yeah. So the mayor we had at the time just probably didn't handle it correctly, Mike White. So Mr. Modell just decided he needed to move, and he was getting offered a ton of money, and so he took the money and ran. So and I think that if you or I or anybody else that was in that position and you got offered that money, we would probably take it as well. You
I would,
know,
yeah.
so we can say we wouldn't, but in honesty in business, you go, that's the reason why you're in business, to go after the highest dollar, and wherever that's at, you will go to. Uh, and I think that's what happened. They'll cuss him for the rest of their lives, but he was a good man to me. He brought me, he brought me here to Cleveland, and he never missed a paycheck, so I'm good with him.
So, like we said before we got on air here, you work currently with the NFL. What is your role with the NFL? Like, what do you currently do?
Well, I'm an NFL inspector, so that means that I protect the sponsorship of the NFL. So, Nike is like the official apparel sponsor, Gatorade the official drink, Motorola the official computer, Bose the official headset, New Era the official cap. I just make sure that they don't get sabotaged in any way because they pay a lot of money to be a sponsor. And so I just make sure all the coaches, players, and referees are dressed correctly and do what they need to do to represent those
Hey, maybe you
sponsors.
can hook me up with a pair of bows.
Well, there you go. Well, I don't even get any bows, but I'll go to work on that.
those things are cool to see. Better
Yeah,
than the Motorola ones.
right. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's good stuff. Good
So
stuff.
now let's talk about, like, we got a little bit into it with the Browns today. You, like you said, you've seen a little bit of success, which I know I have. Yes, I've seen. I'm not blind. I've seen it because I'm a football fan. I've seen how well they're doing now. Your defense is stacked with Myles Garrett and that bunch, and Ronnie Harrison Jr. All those guys. Do you see Baker Mayfield staying? Because there was a lot of drama with him and Odell. A lot of people put that in perspective, even though that's not true. Odell, I didn't hear any complaints out of him, but that's what a lot of people are saying. Do you think Baker is the quarterback of the future for you guys?
Remains to be seen. I think that there was a big mistake that he continued to play after he got hurt last season.
I thought that was too. He should have had surgery
Yeah,
instead of toughing out.
it didn't help his cause. It just made things worse. And so I think it remains to be seen if he's given another opportunity this season. I think it's his make or break season. Um, if he isn't, then we'll get a new guy. So we're kind of in limbo now. We don't know really what their thoughts are. Is it if he did enough damage last year where they have to get rid of him, or are they going to, he had the surgery, or are they going to give him another opportunity to make it right? So it remains to be seen. So if you talk to any fan, 50 of them love him, the other 50% doesn't. So it's kind of one of those deals. And it comes down to if he can come in and win games for us, and he will be our guy. So he's kind of on the crossroads because he's in that situation where he's played 4 years. So what has he done in those 4 years?
Right.
He's had two good ones and he's had two bad ones. So um, if this fifth year is a great one, he'll be the quarterback of the future. If not, then he'll go somewhere else and be the backup.
Now
So
I gotta ask you about a coach you had a couple years ago that went uh, failed miserably, but I think it was because of the QB. He didn't have no QB, and they didn't give it to him. Do you find that Hugh Jackson's claims are true? And if they are true, do you think Jimmy Haslam should sell the team?
well, I think Jimmy. Yeah, absolutely. If they're true, absolutely he should be. Just like the guy down in Miami.
Miami, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he should too, yes.
yeah, they should be forced to sell the team. With Hugh Jackson's situation is a little different from Flores because Hugh wasn't really offered monies to lose game. He was just put in a position where he couldn't win.
Incentives. Yeah,
Yeah,
incentives.
yeah. So they had they cut people that should have been on that team. So when you cut certain players that should make the team, then you're playing with lesser talent. So when you play with lesser talent, you're not going to win games. So it was an intentional deal. Whereas for Brian Flores, you lose, you get more money. So that was an incentive. Whereas, but Flores had a team to where he could win games, and he did win games, and still got fired. Whereas with Hugh Jackson, never really had an opportunity to really win any games because of the roster that he had. So
Yeah.
he was he didn't really have a lot of say so in the decisions on the personnel, which I think a head coach has to have full control of whoever's on the personnel. Whereas Brian Flores, uh, had a team, and he says, I get paid to win games, and he got so by winning games that the owner didn't like, he got fired for. So I think both situations are whether they're both obviously different, but I think in the final analysis, they were both put in positions that was compromising the success of the team. So yes, I think that if it comes true to what happened, I think that both those owners need to give up. Just like the guy that used to own the Clippers that had to give up his team,
Yeah.
and the guy that used to own the Charlotte or the Carolina Panthers had to give up his team. I think yes, I think it's dude.
Well, you witnessed it firsthand. I mean, his claims are pretty much like you said. They got to be true, right? Because you witnessed it firsthand.
Right,
like,
right.
It was those teams were horrible,
terrible. He wasn't going to win with those teams. I mean, those teams he had, they weren't going to win. They weren't even close in any of the games.
Yeah, and I've heard people say, sorry, not just people, but this was out of Haslam's mouth too, which I think is BS. Is like, oh well, you coached them 2 years, you can coach. You what about you coaching them?
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, you can coach anybody.
Yeah, right.
But if you're put in a position like that, but okay, so when you get a new 2-year contract after you go 0-16. No, I don't think that's the case.
Right.
So there's some foul play there. I mean, it's obvious that there was some foul play, but will he get caught on it? It's hard to say. I don't even know if there's, with Brian Flores getting hired with the Steelers, I thought that was pretty awesome.
Oh, that actually went official? He got hired, huh?
Oh yeah.
I didn't hear that. Good for him.
Oh yeah, Mike Tomlin hired him.
Good for him. Good for him. He deserved it.
but the lawsuit's still in place.
I know. That's good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him. Good for him. Yeah,
So
because I gotta say this, and I know Goodell and Troy Vincent are doing their best,
true.
but I mean, there's a problem in the NFL. It's ridiculous. I
Oh
hate it.
yeah. It's unbelievable. But hey, it
And I'm
is what
not
it
just saying
is,
that,
right?
and I'm not saying that just because I'm not saying that just because I'm white, because it's true. There is. There's a
Right.
whole. I mean, it's a problem. It's like a racist ordinance thing going on with
Right.
coaches.
Right.
Like,
It is. It is. It's terrible.
for instance, Josh McCown. He was going to get the you damn well know he was going to get the Texans job if this lawsuit didn't come.
Right.
He was going, and he was coaching high school.
I
Not
know.
even
Isn't that crazy? That's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, but they once it was brought to everybody's attention, they stepped off that boat. You know.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
mean, good for Lovely, but still, that they only did that because of this damn lawsuit.
that's true. Absolutely.
How
Which
sad is that lawsuits have to be to what makes people do right? How sad is that?
it's pretty sad. Pretty sad.
Like, could you
And
see it when you were playing with these owners? I mean, could you see
yeah,
the
it's always been there. It's always been there. I mean, and we've known it for a while, but as players, we just want to play the game and get to opportunities. So and try not to create any waves. But but it, hopefully there's been enough attention brought to it to where they'll just start doing the right things. But they they still haven't done the right thing. So what do
yeah,
you do?
exactly. And like Shannon Sharp always says, and I agree with him, you can't tell 32 owners what to do,
Exactly.
especially white billionaires.
That's right. That's right.
Now,
So,
hopefully this changes once, because I heard, I don't know if it came out yet, but I know there's one minority trying to buy the Broncos. That'd be the first black
yeah,
owner.
that'd be great. That'd be
Did
great.
he? I don't know. Did he do that, or I don't know? Do you
Yeah,
know?
it's still in the preliminary stages. So yeah, there's an opportunity there. So
That'll definitely change. That'll
yeah,
definitely change things right there.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the NBA is far ahead as far as head coaches and
15,
ownership.
15 of the 15 of the 30, I think
Yeah,
I heard.
yeah. So hey, you can't ask much. You can't get any better than that. So
Exactly. That's right.
we'll see what happens down the line.
Now, I got to ask you a couple more before I let you go. I know I said I promised only 45 to 60, but
Yeah, it's getting past my bedtime here.
I know, same here. But it's going to be a couple more, I promise, and then I'll let you go. Um, did you ever want to get into coaching? I know we just talked about it, but did you ever want to get into coaching?
No, I had
You knew this was going to happen with coaches?
I had opportunities to coach. For you know got asked a couple times, and I just didn't really have the. I just didn't. It was too early after too quick after I retired to get back into it because coaches actually spends a lot more time doing what they do more so
Than
than the
players,
ball
yeah.
players do,
Yeah.
and I just didn't really want to put that much time into it. But I had the opportunity to. Now I think about it often. Should I want into coaching? But because they also make good money as well.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with the decision I made of not going that route and just kind of trying to be an entrepreneur. And so I like my life. I like the decision I made, and I'm pretty happy. So yeah, it's
Perfect.
all good.
I couldn't say that. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Now the last one is I asked this to everybody. It's a two-part question. We just got done. I just got done asking you. You asked, and you answered it well. So now I got to ask you, if you did do that coaching role, and you were coaching either high school, whatever, college, adults, whatever, what would you tell them, young kids, to those young adults, to be successful in the game that you played? And the second part of the question is, what would you define your career in one word?
Well, if I became if I was a head coach, I mean, obviously, I mean, is it would be to teach my players to be the best possible player they could be, and the way you achieve that is that you stay in shape, work out, and you become a student of the game. If you're a student of your game, whether it be basketball, football, or baseball, or hockey, uh, you'll be a good ball player because you understand what your opponent is trying to do to you. So if
Right.
you understand what the opponent's trying to do to you, then you'll be able to counter that, and you'll be the best person that you could possibly be. And I want those kind of players on my team. So that's what I would be as a coach. Uh, the things that define my career is that I never gave up. I when I wasn't given the opportunity, uh, there was still hope. And although I wasn't given the opportunity right out of college, I went and to what I went to college for. I used my degree, and which would if I never got the opportunity to play football, I would have been a career teacher to help students and student athletes achieve their goals. But never really gave up hope on my dream. And then once I got an opportunity uh, to achieve my dream, I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I was ready and given the opportunity, I achieved it. So I have no regrets of saying, man, I had my opportunity, but I just wasn't ready. So I was ready for it and stayed ready for it and succeeded and got to the ultimate goal was to play in the National Football League. So I was able to achieve it and get it done. And so when I go out and speak with student athletes, I just say, hey, it may not happen the way you'd like for it to happen, but you got to stick with it until the door shuts. And then and sometimes you may not make it, but at least you put everything in it to that you had an opportunity to do. Sometimes you can't control that situation, right. But so just stay ready, and when you get the opportunity, you do the best you can, and let the chips fall where they may, and it should all work out for you. If you make it, you've succeeded. If you don't, and you gave it your best shot, you can't be unhappy about that either.
I couldn't have said it any better.
All
Well,
right.
thank you. This concludes episode number 86 of Coffee Time with Felix Wright, former NFL player. It was awesome. I'll send you the episode when we're done.
All right.
And before I get off with you, I'll stay in touch with you.
Yeah.
I'll text you here and there. If you can give me that Bose headset, I'd be appreciated. If not, hey, I totally get it. I totally understand.
Right. We'll see. I'll see what I can do for you, and then I'll reach you tweet it on your, and I'll retweet it for you as well.
I will. And if you know anybody else, send them my way. You got my information. You got that. Always looking for more interviews. But definitely, I had a blast, and I'll definitely stay in touch with you.
All right, sounds good. You take care. Have a good night, Brian.
You too. Take care. All right. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Bye. All right. That concludes episode number 86 of Coffee Time with Felix Wright, former NFL